We are live right now, by the way, as we jump into our lower bracket final. Winner has a shot at making it to World Finals. Loser of this best of 5 will be gone.
You know, some comments are just so funny.
I think I saw the one you're talking about.
Well, no. I was just laughing at that one. When is the stream starting is hilarious. Oh, unless they're talking about the World Finals, Ooh. Misses the snowball right there on the minion horde, and a lot of those minions are going to put in a ton of work.
So pretty similar looks, although different final result from these decks. And just thinking about some of the stuff that you have at DreamHack, of course, the Clash Royale League World Finals and Clash of Clans World Finals, a whole slate of really awesome esports events throughout that whole weekend. Creator hubs, cosplay competitions, Halloween events, free play and tournaments available for people who are attending. And, of course, the expo with artists, exhibitions, and a bunch of other fun stuff. So go to DreamHack.com/Atlanta for overall information. And, of course, we have the Clash Royale World Finals stuff up there as well.
Good snowball right there with the help of the tower. I mean, this is a lot of elixir for Vítor to be spending. The wizard staying alive is actually very massive for him. Gets a shot on the tower, and so he gets rewarded for making a very risky play, in my opinion.
Hut down one more time. Spear's working on that Skeleton King at the bridge, but Wizard will go ahead and clean up everything else. Last time it was Wallace who won in that matchup. Wallace kind of going back to the well here. Vítor running the deck that Wallace beat him with in the last one with this Mortar Miner Wizard deck.
And there's a lot on the field. Vines putting in work, getting the shield off of the wizard. That's one shot on top of the tower, so pretty good interaction for Wallace right there.
You know, and maybe it's because of the way it's not even necessarily new troops, but the way that the meta has evolved, where, especially with Witch being viable, I feel like we have a chaotic field board. Oh my word, oh my word. Uh-oh. Wallace with the perfectly timed vine, snowball to clear, and that is game 1 done early. Just 10 seconds, just 9 seconds into sudden death overtime. You value more.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty interesting and just not. I do really struggle with looking at Wallace's deck using the Evo Witch, the Snowball, the Drill. It just feels like it overlaps so hard, and it's going to make his life a lot harder. Had he lost, he would be in so much trouble, but you know, as it is with all types of sports, if you win, you get to write your own story. So he did win. He set himself up 1-0, and it ends up being the right decision.
Vítor probably running that Royal Hogs deck one more time. And there we go. Pigs of the opposite lane. The second that NATO comes out, well timed from Vítor. Wallace going to take some nice little damage here early on.
No NATO in this, or yeah, use the NATO to help out the Executioner. We're probably looking at E-Giant in the hands of Wallace. Vítor just going to be running the regular Royal Hogs Quick Cycle Lightning deck. And there's the E-Giant for Wallace.
Playing that into his weak side. Happy to make the fight continue on in this lane. And here we'll see the might of the Baby Dragon Evo. Just gonna, and you see Vítor's not happy, and that's, I think, because for a number of reasons, but one is he's forced to get a little bit extra out there.
Yeah, right here, Xe to perfection gets a second shot, and you know, all of a sudden that 9 elixir push gets absolutely deleted, and you're still gonna have to worry about that Xe walking down the lane.
Mighty Miner ability just to put a little bit more damage on that one. Make sure there's not a really viable counter push behind. And that's Electro Giant kind of all on its lonesome here. Although that Brawler's going to get maybe one shot. Nope, forces out the skeletons. Pigs go opposite direction. And Vítor now opened up a pretty significant lead. 1837 on the right-hand tower, has not given up a single touch as of yet.
Yeah, this E Giant deck has really struggled this weekend. It looks good, and you would assume it's always going to put in a ton of work in any sort of tournament, but it really does struggle in certain matchups, and this is definitely looking like one. The Mighty Miner, the Quick Cycle, the Cannon, all really good responses to this deck because you're trying to build pushes, but the Lightning just takes out everything.
And once again, Vítor does finally take some damage, actually. I was going to say to blank some again, but E-Giant stays alive long enough for 2 zaps from... I don't know what do we actually call those electro orbs on its back?
On which troop?
On the back of the Electro Giant.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever noticed the 2 orbs. Wow.
It's kind of like the whole thing of the Electro Giant.
Yeah, I'm not a very
observant person.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we'll see if maybe someone in chat has knows what those are called. Lightning to clear. There you go. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, both players cycling the Lightnings. Wallace getting it on top of the tower, but it's just not going to be enough. Vítor is just always going to be able to cycle cannons. Wallace is going to need something special, and I don't really know if Vítor is going to allow him to do that.
Lightning log to get the Xe out of the way. And this Xe NATO, that's the question, is can Wallace defend this cage there, but nothing to get the Xe lined up for damage here. Does Vítor go for like a NATO here? And Vítor goes for the NATO play, or Wallace goes for the NATO play, excuse me. Wallace goes for the NATO play, but Vítor plays troops to the inside, not giving the easy damage away to Wallace. So he does have that minor rocket deck that he likes.
Yeah, again, don't love seeing minor rockets, so kind of hoping that doesn't happen. Vítor going to start off with the Valk plus the Ice Spirit. Wallace going quick at the bridge. Hog and gets, I believe, 2 shots. Wow, quite a bit of damage.
So Wallace has mostly run this with Lightning. Doesn't have Lightning available. We'll see if he's going Fireball for this or some other option.
Vítor looking like graveyard so far. He did have the opportunity to run the Evo Knight, so it's something to look out for that he's already used the Evo Valk in this deck. Wallace on the other side. We've seen a couple different variants with the Wizard and the Lightnings, but Wallace, obviously we saw Lightning in the last one, so probably just going to be running a regular Hog EQ.
You know, we are definitely a far time away from the Earthquake as a win condition era of Clash Royale. Not seen as much Earthquake in competitive.
Yeah, not a huge fan of spells being able to be a win condition. I think it's one of the few things that I just like disagree with. It doesn't matter. I'm okay with pretty much anything, but spell cycling as a deck, it just hurts. I can't get behind it.
Well, not to bring up painful memories, but I do remember being blown away in your 2v2 match against Ponos at Worlds in 2018, where they ran a 2v2 spell cycle deck.
Yeah, it hurts.
Which doesn't contribute at all to your dislike of spell cycle.
Yeah.
Good connection from Wallace on the right-hand side as we go into the final 30 seconds of regulation, opening things up with this hog. And definitely happy to have the Earthquake is going to could do some good double duty, especially now that he has this lead. Obviously, Earthquake good against the Goblin Hut, but watch him keep an eye as he'll use this sometimes against these graveyards.
Graveyard stacking up skellies. Pretty solid log right there. Maybe a tick too early, but overall, not a ton of damage given up, even though he didn't really defend with the lock. Very clean overall from Wallace.
And that's it raises an interesting question, right? When you look at the different ways to defend that graveyard, obviously Earthquake does great work against the hut and gets tower damage. But, you know, you almost start wondering, okay, there's no poison supporting this graveyard, which is why this troop-based defense is able to work so well here. But you do wonder in some of the later hours if the Earthquake might be, with its 3 ticks, more effective against some of those graveyards and rely more on the log chip the opposite direction.
Yeah, definitely something to look at. And right here, yeah, right here defends with the Earthquake, going to need to log, but he has to log high, but because of the Earthquake plus the Skellies, still going to defend that relatively well, but that Furnace is chipping away at the tower, and now he also has to worry about the right side as well.
1263, the mark on Vítor's top right-hand tower. Lead currently for Wallace, but lead could be precarious here. And you see Earthquake doing its work to clear the first half of that. Skelly's clean up the backhand. No damage from that graveyard. Not something we can say very often lately with graveyards.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time that I've said that. Right here, 36 seconds left. We're seeing aggression by Vítor, and it feels like he has a 3-card cycle going on, but he just clearly doesn't with no champion involved. Very impressive that he's been able to cycle so quickly.
And this time, we see the Earthquake on offense.
What's he going to do about that Valk on top of the tower?
Oh, my word. And now Vítor changes lanes. Graveyard to the right-hand side. Hog has to get past this. Earthquake trying to do some work. Log to clear. Skelly's on, and that's going to be game number 3 for Vítor. Match point for the Pride of Portugal.
Wow, Wallace with a massive error.
Oh, okay, now we have match point for Vítor, and let's get into it. Log, EQ, Lightning NATO, Bar Barrel, all gone along with the Snowball and the Vine, so it looks like it's going to be a bait out of Wallace, and Vítor showing RG potentially here.
So Wallace does have Mortar available to him, so it could be either just straight up bait or it could be Mortar bait. Still have to wait for that, and then Vítor on the other side. This is probably going to be either RG, Giant Skeleton, or not Giant Skeleton, Goblin Giant, and there's the Goblin Machine. So yeah, looking like Goblin Giant.
But here's the big question, right? Is Wallace running a variation with a direct damage spell? Because what we saw in the last game against Viper was an Inferno Tower here for Wallace, and he'll certainly be happy to have that against the Goblin Giant deck. You know, what we saw from Wallace last time, and obviously a little different with the Miner, because the Miner you can get directly on tower as long as it's not picked up, but we saw Wallace in Game 4 go to a deck that had no direct tower damage in that bridge spam deck, and once Vítor, or once Viper was able to get the lead back, or once I was able to make it close, he was able to steal that because Wallace couldn't create damage. Very curious to see what Wallace's game plan is here in the later minutes.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that it's probably going to be Rocket. I think Minor Rocket does make sense. Needs to defend that Golden Knight, and that's not going to happen. That Golden Knight keeps attacking the tower. Level 13 P.E.K.K.A gets picked up properly, but a damage advantage for Vítor at this point.
Yeah, I think that's our first Goblin Curse on the day. Has some targets. Vítor had to be happy to see the Stab Gobs and the Dark Goblin as potential victims of that curse.
Yeah, we're going to see the curse paired with a rage quite a bit. Now that we're in double elixir, there's the opportunity to get aggressive, and that is a good curse. Going to be able to keep his Goblin Machine alive, and now it might be in range. It is, but it forces out a big response on defense. This is going to be a massive counterattack for Vítor.
And Vítor does have lots of ways to contend with this Inferno Tower. This time it will turn and get onto the Evo P.E.K.K.A. So it does its job, but we'll see how much Vítor is able to use that curse and those minions to distract that tower. Doesn't have a reset ability against the Inferno Tower.
Vítor shaking. And right there, I mean, and the Inferno Tower not going to pull, so this Goblin Giant is going to work. The E-Spirit's going to try and slow it down, but if that P.E.K.K.A got a swing right there, taking out the Valk, that would have been game over. Instead, Valk saves his life, gives him an opportunity to still make it.
And even after all of that, Wallace still does have the slight lead. Has damage in both lanes, so that is a bit of a challenge. And Evo P.E.K.K.A over to the strong side for Vítor once more. This time Wallace plays that Inferno Tower in a central location.
And I'm just trying to figure out what I would do if I was Vítor. You got to be able to protect it. I'd love to see the Curse plus Rage, and there we go. We are going to see that. You got to make sure that you're keeping everything alive. Goblin Giant taking out the Inferno Tower, and that one little Goblin putting it in to work, getting the tower. Oh, I cannot believe that it wasn't able to make it to the tower right there.
Delivery has to come down, will hold, but damage done. 1491. Wallace playing minor chip here, and we have not seen a rocket yet. We are in triple elixir, and it's poison instead. Minor poison.
Yeah, that is a pretty bad situation for him. Minor's going to be able to protect the Dark Goblin, so Goblin Machine forced to be played, takes out the Dark Goblin, and then gets started punching away at the Valkyrie.
And Delivery is going to have to be really, really pulling some work here. Goblin Curse, but nothing there as a curse target. Wallace is going to need one more Inferno Tower and then need to get something on that opposite side. He does not have the Inferno Tower. Vítor, emphatic, gets the win. He is going to our LCQ final.